All right, Dan. So we are live on YouTube, and the floor is yours.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Dan Spring, Chair of the Board of Finance of the great town of North Stonington, Connecticut. And being June 1st, 2020, this is our annual finance public hearing coming live via Zoom. So certainly a new format. We're up to 50 participants, which I'm very pleased about. I know this is something very new. But I think we're going to share a lot of information tonight that will be informative and excite you as well. Tonight with me, I have other panelists, which would be our first selectman, Mike Urgo, our chairwoman, Christine Wagner, Board of Ed, and Christine Diaz, our finance and administrative officer for the town. We're going to cover a lot of ground, and I'm going to ask questions and comments be held until the end of the presentation. I also would like to start by thanking all the members of boards and commissions that have worked arduously, actually since the beginning of the first of the year, and through difficult times. As you know, we've gone into complete shutdown. All of our meetings have been via Zoom. So for everyone who's made the commitment, have done their part, have made the contributions, I thank you. For me in particular, I would like to thank my colleagues on the Board of Finance. We've put in a lot of time. We've had a lot of robust debate that's been shared with other members of boards and commissions, and have brought forward a budget unanimously that I think is the right budget for the town as we move towards our next fiscal year of 2020 to 21. So if I could have the first slide, Christine. Okay, just starting a little bit background with the budget process. I've said this before, but the Board of Finance is an oversight board. Tried to be independent from all others, but collaborative in overseeing the fiscal direction of the town to make sure that policies are met, that things are kept on track relative to keeping a very strong fiscal profile for the town. In particular, I've put up 3 points that I'd like to share with you. The first, that the budget itself is a blueprint providing an overall direction to serving the expectations of taxpayers and the efficient day-to-day operations of the town, given input from various boards and commissions. And this actually started in the fall of 2019 and now has moved to this point in time. Two, the budget is a financial plan that moves the town toward achieving goals as defined in the plan of conservation and development within constraints of available resources. So you would think, gee, the Board of Finance is always looking just at expenditures, but quite frankly, we look at both sides. We look at the revenue side, where the town is, and most of that, as you may know, and I've talked about it quite often, from our grand list, and matching our revenues to our expenditures. 3, it's the execution of the budget, which is monitored and continuously evaluated with adjustments made throughout the fiscal year as may be required to assure progress toward achieving goals. To that point, the Board of Finance on a monthly basis is looking at the profit and loss statements of both general government and Board of Ed, and keeping an eye on the execution of their budgets as we move through the 12 months of the fiscal year. Moreover, we are audited annually, and I'm very proud to tell you that we've had glowing audit reports that are available at the town hall for your review, and that our most recent audit for our last fiscal year was considered by our auditing service to be the very best. We've accomplished a lot. We have, over the last 10 years, strengthened the financial profile of the town. and have met many goals that have been defined by our townspeople through the Plan of Conservation and Development. So again, the budget is what brings all that we want to accomplish to realization. And I would have to say the town has done a very good job in accomplishing much while still constraining the mill rate, the taxation of our residents. So with that, we're going to explore more about the budget more in detail, split in two parts. One being presented by our first selectman, Mike Urgo, for general government. And secondly, Chairwoman Christine Wagner for Board of Ed. So at this point, I will turn it over to Mike Urgo. Oh, here's a slide. Thank you, Christine, for bringing that. These are major considerations. I kind of touched on them a little bit as I was speaking, but certainly we look at the present day economy, which we would have to say looks negative right now due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But if we were to just look forward, much has been done by the administration to provide liquidity to the fiscal markets. Certainly the stock market has been responding, suggesting that we will move out of this transitory event, even though it may have ripples as we move into the future. Secondly, as I've been talking, the town really is in very strong fiscal preparedness. We have reserves that have been built up over time, which puts us in good stead relative to emergencies that we may meet as we move through time. We've done a very good job with our debt management. We're going to talk more about that, particularly relative to our capital projects, which I also see as investments that the town has made as we moved into the future. So now I will turn it over to Mike Urgo for selectmen.
And actually, Christine Wagner, Board of Ed Chair, will
She's your lead. Okay.
precede me. And so I will turn it over to Christine.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate everybody's participation tonight. Before I jump into the numbers, I wanted to share some updates and show the progress and successes that we've had over the last year. There's been a lot going on, obviously, in the district, and I really wanted to share a few of those things. Let's see. Next slide. COVID-19. While challenging, we were able to move into the distance learning very rapidly and successfully. We closed our schools on very short notice on March 13th and started our distance learning March 16th. Overnight, parents became teachers and teachers became online curriculum developers. Over 90 laptops have been distributed into homes to assist with distance learning, and everything seems to be going as well as could be expected. Prior to this, we had a lot of work going on in the district. The Board of Ed finalized our strategic plan, which was 18 months in the working. And we're moving even closer to becoming a school of choice for our surrounding districts. I'm going to give you a little brief presentation of that presentation that our administrators gave to both Preston and Voluntown Boards of Education. I'm going to go rather quickly through it. They did an amazing job sharing our story, and I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you. You can go to the next slide, please. We're always growing, always learning. Wheeler has a very strong sense of community and family. Next slide. There's a picture of our graduates. It's very exciting. They have the motto of creating community of resilient lifelong learners. Next slide. And back to the other one, you don't have to go back because I'll just catch up with it real quick. But with our graduates, they're going anywhere into the workforce for working at EB. They're going into Pfizer. They've attended UConn, the U.S. Naval Academy, Northeastern, and many, many more. We've had really large successes with our graduates, both in the workforce and off to college. Next slide. Thank you. This is just a little bit about the mission and core values. These are all based on NEASC requirements, and they all tie directly to our strategic plan. Their academic expectations include analysis, collaboration, community, and literacy. We can go to the next slide. There's a lot of clubs and things going on at Wheeler that a lot of people aren't aware of. We have a good club called the Give Back Club. They've gone around the country helping in areas that have needed hurricane relief, rebuilding homes. This is a picture of the shoebox drive where they were giving needed supplies all around the community at Christmas time. Next slide. Just more ideas and examples of our drama, our music programs, and of some of our successes. Next slide. We really have put in opportunities for all learners. Every student counts. And they are all NEASC aligned to make sure we're hitting the right processes. Next slide. We do have interventionists and support. In the last 2 years, we've put in math specialists and literacy specialists at the high school. And you'll see that those programs, fortunately with the budget we're presenting tonight, are going to be able to stay intact and have made a really big difference on the success of our students and on our test scoring as well. Next slide. This just talks a little bit about our partnership with the Westerly Education Center. It gets people involved in the EB pipeline program, in sheet metal, electric, and pipe fitting. Those kids are all guaranteed jobs at EB when they come out of the Westerly partnership. Next slide. We are still doing the senior project. Even though we were at distance learning this year, they were able to wrap up their projects. And this is something unique to North Stonington. Really cool process that they go through. They started as a junior and end up presenting to the community at the end of their senior year. Next slide. This is just a little bit about some of the senior projects that they do. They all go out and try to look at some certain careers that they may or may not be interested in by the time they complete that project. We've got beekeepers, yoga. We had one student completely redo a tractor. It was really cool. We've had all kinds of really neat projects going on there. Next slide. We also have just started what are called pathways, and that's picking curriculum that will get you directly into business and engineering fields. And this, I think, goes live for 2024 after they've completed their pathway, and gives internship opportunities during their school day as well. Next slide. Tells a little bit more about the pathways. Again, our administrators would be much better at explaining this, but it's really pretty exciting. They get credit outside of Wheeler. They can look at careers after high school and kind of get their foot in the door well before they're ready to leave high school. Next slide. And this is a little bit about our athletic program. Again, this budget that we're going to be showing tonight allows us to keep both our middle school and high school sports intact, which is really exciting for us. For a while when we were going through this process, we thought we might have to scale back on our athletic programs. We have over 60% of our students participating in sports. Next slide. Some of the sports that we offer in-house are volleyball, soccer, cross country. We now offer a co-op with football for Griswold, which is a really awesome way to keep our kids staying at Wheeler. We have boys and girls basketball, cheerleading, lacrosse, baseball, softball, and golf in the spring. Next slide. And we also have sports that offer one-to-one opportunities. They're considered teams of one or co-ops. Everything from lacrosse to track to gymnastics to ice hockey and swimming, as you can see there. Next slide. We have lots of clubs included. If any of you had an opportunity to catch any of our plays, they're really fun to watch. We have debate team, enrichment courses, all kinds of clubs available to our students that keeps them engaged not only academically, but socially as well. Next slide. And of course, we have our new facilities. This is a picture of our all of our faculty saying goodbye to the old Wheeler. And the next one is our new facility. And if anybody's had the opportunity to see it, it's very exciting, beautiful, great science labs, great classrooms, natural lighting, just a really awesome new learning environment for them. And we're really excited to try to get everybody back in the fall. And next slide. So that's the end. You can skip. All right, so let's leave it here for a quick second. So like I said, this was a presentation that we gave to the Preston Board of Ed and also to Voluntown. Right now, Preston has moved forward and voted North Stonington as a school of choice, and they are working through the contractual pieces of that to see how we continue to move that forward. Voluntown is looking at our contract in the hopes of also moving us forward in the near future. what this does for North Stonington is it brings revenue to our town, unlike anything else that is going on in the town right now. This is a projection of if we were only to bring 5 students in the first year, we would be seeing a revenue source to the town of $57,165. By year 4, that would have equated to $228,660. If we get 10 students in, which we think is a very doable number, then we would be in year 4 at $457,000 in tuition monies coming into the town. And this is 9 through 12, grades 9 through 12. Okay, next slide. In addition to what's going on at the middle school, high school, we have some really awesome things going on at the elementary school. Right now we are in a pre-K through 6, and the population had an increase of 58 kids on the elementary level. And what we can see there is even with that increase, this year we are asking for an increase in the budget of $32,000. But if you look all the way back to 2017-18, that's still lower than where our prior budgets have been. They've done amazing things at that school with a very limited budget. Next slide. This shows our success rates. We were rated 15 in the state based on the 18-19 testing and ranked 25 out of 522 elementary schools in Connecticut. Really remarkable results. And you know what goes on there on a day-to-day basis is just so amazing to watch. We have again been rated a school of distinction based on our growth in our math. And next. These are just some quick pictures of the new elementary school. Again, really excited to see that opening up and bringing in our students back into school. And I'm not sure how many pictures are in here because I threw them at Christine at the last minute. So you can go ahead and go through those till you're done with the pictures, Christine. Oh, good. That was perfect. This is the budget progression of when we started back in November, and it's been a really long budget process. I'll tell you, it's been a little bit of a challenging year with that, but I think we've come out to a really good result. Initially, our need was a 7.32% increase over last year's budget. The superintendent worked with the administrators to cut that and came back to us with 4.9. This gave us all the programming we needed, all the special ed funding we felt we needed, and technology moving forward. We brought that to the Board of Finance as an approved unanimous budget at 4.9, and we were asked to go back and revise it again. We revised again in the hopes of keeping our programming and the special ed position and everything in it, which would have brought us to 2.85. We were asked again to revise that. And this is where the revisions started to get a little bit difficult. We were able to come up with something we thought we could work with at 2.5 as an increase. It does not, we'll show you some of the things it doesn't have in it, but it does keep most programs intact, and it also keeps our middle school sports program intact, which is so very important to the school. Next slide. These are some of the cuts that were made along the way. We have cut all technology out of next year's budget. Distance learning needs technology, and we're learning how critical the technology is. We are hopeful that we have some other plans in place to help cover that, but right now this budget and budgets moving forward have no money in them for technology. We've eliminated some maintenance equipment. We were able to see from the beginning of the budget process to getting closer to the budget process some savings on retirement, medical, and dental in the benefits. We also cut some instructional supply and cut all out of district workshops. We also kind of are taking a risk here a little bit, but think we might be able to save on the utilities with the solar that's in, but we don't know what those numbers look like exactly, but we did make a reduction on that line item. And the only other thing that we also had reduced in here that we're not seeing is we did have a retirement on the special education side, and we have not replaced that teacher. We are a little bit concerned about that for this upcoming year because after COVID, there's a lot of need going to be taking place this fall for education. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of our budget distribution. Salaries and benefits are at $11,569,613. We did have a teacher contract come up for renewal. And I will say our union that we work with is very understanding of the situation we're in town here. They were willing to not take step movement in the first year. We were able to reduce some planning periods to get more teaching periods, which gives us more student-facing time, which is more education time. We were also able to work around filling in with some teachers for substitute time, which is also more savings. And we were also able to reduce our percentage of share towards the health insurance makeup. You can see our fixed costs, which is our utilities and busing and some of those things, is at $2,059,041. And discretionary, which is going to be the things like books, supplies, technology, is only $491,000 of our budget. Next slide. This is again the history of our budgets. We try to show this to you each year so that you can see that while our costs go up every single year, historically we haven't had a consistent increase in budgets. It's just something we're looking forward to keep up with rising costs. Next slide. And then this is just a snapshot of the revenue that comes to the town for education. So while we realize our budget is half of what the town's budget is, we do bring in let's see, about 2.5 million in educational cost sharing. We also have adult ed money coming in, reimbursements for E-rate, and bringing our total state revenues into the town at 2.6 million. The educational cost sharing is down a little bit from last year, so that's why you're seeing that negative 75 there. We also have grants and title money. We work very hard to receive and take advantage of as many grants and titles as we can. Our superintendent does a very good job of finding any kinds of grants that are out there. And you can see here our total grant money to the town is $281,749. And this is our cost per pupil. You can see we're in line with what's going on in the state. The next slide, I think, is more telling. We are much lower than our DERG, which is towns around us that are comparable in size and, district. So our cost per pupil is $16,901. We are towards the bottom in the cost to run our district. And I think we should be really proud of that for the successes we have and for everything that we do here, and how amazing it is to go to school in North Stonington. That we can keep that cost down to that lower 10% is really fantastic. Next slide. Oh, that's kind of the end of my budget presentation, I guess. So overall, what we're looking for here is a 2.5% increase. We have a lot of great things going on in town here. This fall is going to be challenging. We do have some concerns on that level, but I think we're up to the challenge. I think there's things we can do there to make it happen. And we're just really excited to answer any questions. And also, if anybody wants a full copy of the budget to email me, I'd be happy to send that to you electronically. And that's the end of my presentation.
Christine, thank you very much. Now I will turn it over to our first selectman, Mike Ergo, for the general government presentation.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Christine. Great presentation. I just want to mention, I'm going to go through a few things just to kind of talk a little bit about the last year, although in February we did a state of the town where we talked in pretty good detail about some things that have been happening over the last year. But I do want to kind of touch on that and then get into the budget a little bit. So North Stonington, we underwent looking at doing a strategic plan, and we completed a strategic plan internally here last year, and the mission statement is very important to that strategic plan. It says North Stonington will work to attract capital investments while maintaining the distinctive small town character that attracts residents, businesses, and visitors. The town will use its resources efficiently, maintain transparency with strong communication, and continue to focus on quality of life and sustainability. I just wanted to read that because this strategic plan really, it goes back to the plan of conservation and development, but it's actually this actually helps us to apply some more actions to that plan of conservation and development. So some things that have happened over the last year, we did achieve bronze certification for the Sustainable CT program, which was a great accomplishment. So that really means that we are putting sustainability in the forefront here in North Stonington, really trying to make sure that that's included. Our footprint is sustainable, and it's kind of, there's a thread of the needle through everything we're doing in North Stonington. We got CEDIS certification for best practices in land use and economic development. There's Juliet, our town planner, accepting that this past year, and that was a great accomplishment. And of course, Juliet was very involved in writing some of the CEDs and those processes. So we're really proud of that as well, and great job to Juliet on that. This past September, some of you may have gone to the community conversation to talk about the Greater Village area, which is downtown here in North Stonington. And we had a great turnout for that and really talked about some of the planful thinking about the village, how we see the village in the future, and just, you know, some things that we think we can certainly keep the same, but also are there improvements that we want to make? And that was a really great exercise for us to go through as a town. So we're proud of that discussion, and certainly looking forward to some movement on some of those areas. We did complete a facilities plan for phase 1 of the water and sewer line extension into the economic development and industrial zones. Nothing's happening as of yet there, but this is something where as I continue to always talk about at a lot of the meetings, the fact that we definitely want to see more grand list growth, more economic growth in areas that planning and zoning designated for that growth, because it will help the individual taxpayer in the end to have this. And the great thing about our planning and zoning is that they've designated certain areas that we don't see as affecting the character of our town, that we see as a complement to our town, and really bringing more amenities and other services to our area. So this is a means to that end, and so we are continuing work on that. We implemented new permit tracking software to streamline operations this year in our planning and zoning and building department. The new village commercial district was created and acted by our planning and zoning. A new slogan and marketing brochure did come out this year from economic development. North Stonington, the heart of southeastern Connecticut. You may have seen that in some areas, and this nice brochure is available for those who are interested. We did install solar arrays at the Center for Emergency Services and at the Wheeler Middle High School. Soon there'll be solar going on the elementary school as well as the Board of Education space at the old middle high school. Per the budgets that were previously passed, we did also purchase the over-the-rail mower, replaced a very old mower that we had, and this is in operation and working very nicely for the town right now. Our Conservation Commission worked hard to put a trails map together, and great job to that group for putting this map together, and what ended up being such a crucial time for everyone wanting to spend more time in the outdoors with the COVID-19 going on. I think this trails map has gotten a lot of use. I personally enjoyed many trails using this map, and so that was a great effort from our Conservation Commission. We completed interior painting at the John Dean Gallup House located at Hewitt Farm. That house had been in desperate need of repair on the interior, and so that has been completed, and we're looking forward to the new to be determined use of the building at this time, but now it's in good shape for occupancy, so more to come on that. We repaved Rocky Hollow, Milltown, and Hollowell roads, and our highway crew has been just amazing, the work that's being completed around town. I commend them for the great work they're doing. Really a lot of talent there, and always up for the tasks that we put in front of them. We did install cameras at the Town Hall, Hewitt Farm, and Highway Garage. So, you know, more security, which is obviously paramount now. So we do have security cameras, which we're excited to have available at those locations now for security. And our 27-year-old phone system, not pictured here, this is the new phone system, was just installed at the Highway Garage and Senior Center and Town Hall, and certainly got quite a value for this new system. We're going to be saving money on our Comcast bills going forward with this system as well. So we're proud of that and happy to have that installed. A couple other accomplishments. We were ranked #1 in the Connecticut Town Economic Index for small towns. We cleaned up some blighted properties and closed many enforcement cases around town. The school repurposing committee was Building Repurposing Committee was established to review potential uses for the former middle high school located at 298 Norwich Westerly Road. And an Emergency Services Operations Committee was established to review the operations of emergency services in the town, including the fire and ambulance. So some building and land use permits issued. We had a slight drop in permits from last year, although nearly 9 million worth of construction value was approved this fiscal year, including 8 new homes. The total number of zoning permits has been dropping for the last 3 years, though the number of site plans and home occupations have risen. The number of houses is still a great number. These 3 types of permits in particular point to an increased investment in town. There's more people moving in, more people setting up businesses that we hope to expand over the years, and more new businesses or modifications and expansions to existing commercial businesses that have taken place this year. Revenues for planning and zoning and ZBA and wetlands were slightly higher than projected for the first time in a long time, in part due to increases in fees to cover the increased cost of advertising. There's been a lot of activity in economic activity. We've got a lot of large parcels having changed hands, and we're working with prospective developers on initial concept for 4 long vacant properties. A lot of blighted properties, as I mentioned before, have been cleaned up and renovated. Other businesses have also cleaned up their properties and in some cases expanded their footprint. Some vacant commercial buildings are getting new life. Soon we'll have 2 new event spaces, one associated with a new vineyard in town you may have heard of, and the Chinook Brewery right down here in the village is expanding to include outdoor space. And new solar projects are in the works throughout town. As mentioned, the Connecticut Town Index score, North Stonington did have the highest Connecticut Town Index score, again, meaning we saw the fastest growth among towns with populations under 25,000. So there's been a lot of good news happening in the land use area. Housing construction is still strong. We've seen a good variety of new businesses over the past years, with more on the horizon. And efforts to simplify zoning in the approval process are paying off. We've started some marketing efforts, and of course, we came out with a video. Actually, that was last fiscal year, and of course, the brochure, which I already mentioned. So we're doing a lot of work, and I think we're seeing some of the dividends now. So to talk about some priorities for this year and the budget that's up for discussion, 2020-2021 budget, priorities as in this budget are infrastructure investments. So to continue the water and sewer initiative, it's going to be very important for us to continue those discussions and that work so we can see that through. Prioritization of road work in Kingswood and Meadowwood and Cedar neighborhoods. As mentioned before, the roads there, they've been in need of repair. There was a patch job basically done on them several years ago. Some of that work will get completed. We had hoped to get more done, but it will take a number of years, but we're going to get all those roads fixed up over the next couple of years, probably 3, maybe 4 years, but we're going to work with what we have. And that's kind of the theme of the budget. I'll talk about that in another slide, but community support and plan commitments. So you talk about some other things that are in this budget, increase in redemption of debt for school project funding, which I'll talk a little bit more about. We do have an increase for the Wheeler Library, and that's important. We actually heard a great presentation a couple of times from the Wheeler Library, and it's a partnership with the Wheeler Library. For those who utilize the library, you know what they provide to the community. And we haven't been funding them anywhere near what other communities are funding their libraries. So this puts them in a situation where they're having to hit their endowment in order to continue to operate. And as those who use the library know, and we hope more people will, or maybe have during this COVID-19, it's a gem that we have here in North Stonington. So certainly an important investment that we have in the Wheeler Library increase. And then it says eliminated plan for savings for future capital items. And, as we started this budget process, and I don't have the 6 iterations that we were asked to work on in general government, but it really took 6 times of us kind of continuing to go back to the drawing board through the Board of Finance and really collaborating. But there was elimination of items that we would have liked to see in here, but in a sensitivity to the situation we're in, and the requests from the board, we made some decisions on the on the budget that we eliminated some things that we would have liked to see, but we can live without for this year. I want to talk a little bit about the mill rate impact of the school modernization project. So we are so fortunate to have these schools. They are beautiful. Christine Wagner showed a couple of pictures of them. When you get a chance to go in these schools, it's unbelievable what we have accomplished. And when you look at how we've accomplished it, and the fact is these schools were built as one of the lowest per square footage schools that are built in the state. And it's incredible what we have here. And you would never know it when you walk in there. But these increases associated with the school project, these were approved before, and we're realizing them as the budgets go on. And we knew this would be the case. But I point this out so people can understand, to date, we have realized 1.75 mils in school modernization debt. We estimate another 0.39 mils in debt to come, with an estimated total mill rate impact of 2.14. Now, if you remember, as I do, I was the chair of the school modernization committee back before being first selectman. We had talked about the potential of a 3 mil impact for the schools. It looks as if we estimate it's going to be less than that. That is through responsible job in managing the project, as well as interest rates moving in the correct direction for us, and the short-term financing moves that we made to help us get there. So I mention this because the largest piece of our budget, as far as an increase in the general government budget, is debt, and that's an additional $139,000 in for the debt payment that's due this particular year. So I'll get into that as we continue going through. But so major budget changes in this budget that you may notice if you've looked at the budget. 10 hours a week for the IT coordinator. We just reallocated that. It was in another line, B2613. We moved it to B25. So it actually is, his budget is just in one place now, not in two. And that was because we were allocating some of the time he was spending up to another building, but now this really makes it right by putting it in one. So it looks like a large increase for the IT coordinator, but it's not. Like I said, additional funding for the Wheeler Library, which we have included. They did ask for more than we did give, but the compromise of $55,000 increase was put forth in this budget. Again, the redemption of debt includes 2 actual payments for the 2 USDA loans each. We do have 2% contractual salary increases for all town employees, other than the selectmen, who are not seeing any increases this year again. And last year, the 2% is fair, I think, especially probably for the town, very fair, as far as, from a negotiation standpoint. Last year, it was a 1.5% increase, and this year is a 2%. And that was part of the 3-year agreement that we have with the staff here. And then there's a reduction in capital investments. And although we do have a capital improvement committee, which is looking at the 5-year capital plan, we have tried to make an effort of having kind of a steady, flat capital line each year, so that way we can kind of plan for it. But this year we did take some stuff out of there to try to reduce the budget, again, to put something forth that we thought would be more palatable for the voters this year. So what's not included in this budget? There's a lot of things not included, but a few things I'll mention. You may have heard discussion about the request for 2 per diem firefighters requested by the North Stonington Volunteer Fire Company. The selectmen opted this year to appoint a committee to look at our emergency services in town in totality. That committee, I think, has met about 5 or 6 times now, and as one of their tasks, it is to look at the opportunities that there are to make sure that our emergency services needs are met in town. So the selectmen opted not to include the per diem firefighters in this year's budget. However, that committee's assignment is a 6-month assignment. So if they reach the conclusion that this is something necessary, it is something we would potentially come to the town for an additional appropriation if it were necessary. But they are looking at like towns in order to try to come up with some best practices that best fit our our community for this. And we have both the chief of the fire company and the ambulance president on this committee of 5 looking at this. So we're looking forward to their recommendations in a couple of months. Funding for weed control and the lake associations was eliminated from this budget. Planned savings, again, I already mentioned for some of the capital purchases, which we would have liked to see. However, we did remove some of those that we thought we could live without. The Board of Finance did elect to remove $9,000 from the land acquisition fund that had been put forth. We had been looking to continue with a $10,000 allocation each year for that. It's been reduced to $1,000 this year. And that was the same as last year, but we had a commitment to try to do 10,000 a year. That's been reduced. And again, planned savings for next reval. We usually try to save up each year for the revaluation. Revaluation's happening this year. But again, trying to just eliminate things that weren't necessary, we removed that. So as you can see here, this is what makes up the budget for the entire town, including the education. So you can see the actuals, the approved from 2019-20, and the proposed change. And again, as I mentioned, the government operating budget, it's a $35,000 increase. And the majority of the town's increase is the debt, the $139,000. I just want to point out, general government, and as Christine Wagner showed, many years the Board of Ed went without increases. Over the last 4 budget cycles, we have had an average of a 0.25% increase over the last 4. If you include this one, it'll be a 0.25% per year, 0.25%. So over the last 4 budgets, it's only totals 1% for general government. So I think it's important for everyone to realize there's not a lot of spending going on. We are eliminating where possible, and we are trying to live certainly within our means in a very conservative budget to meet the needs of the town. So with that, I'm finished with my presentation, and I think we'll just read this aloud. If Dan would like Christine to move into public comment.
Yeah, before we recognize people, I just want to give a congratulations to the School Modernization Project Committee, chaired by Pam Potemry. As you may or may not know, we're really closing down the project on the elementary school, just doing final touches there. And we have just 2 beautiful facilities. That has been the largest capital investment the town has made, and has come in under budget and under projection, as Mike shared. So congratulations to that committee. I sat on that committee all the while, and they just did remarkable work. So congratulations to them. Now on to public comments.
Okay, so what we wanted to do, since this is the first time we're doing a Zoom webinar, we just wanted to kind of review how this is going to happen. So if you are on the phone with us today, you need to dial *9 in order to virtually raise your hand. If you're on your computer or on a smartphone, there's a button that says raise hand. You're just going to click that, and then you'll be put into our queue of people who are going to make a comment or ask a question. Once you're recognized to comment, you need to please state your name and address for the record. And we're asking that to allow everyone the opportunity to comment, that people try to speak briefly and limit their comment or question to 2 minutes. Once we've gone through everyone that has something that they'd like to say, then we can go back to people who have spoken once and allow them the opportunity to speak a second time. So again, that's *9 if you're on your telephone, or you're going to click a button that says raise hand.
Hey, Dan, if I could just add one thing that I forgot to mention, and that's I just want to thank all the boards and commissions, many of whom are on this call. In this COVID-19 environment, everyone moving to this Zoom world that we ended up living in, it really was flawless. And I just am so proud of North Stonington for all the work they did, the boards, the commissions, the staff, everyone. And I just want to make sure I took 2 seconds to recognize the great job that everybody's done. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Mike. And I would say that we're up to 89 participants, so almost 100 people who have joined us to listen to the presentation. So again, thank you for doing that. I know sometimes dealing with technology is like, but we're getting it done, and it's well appreciated. So here we go. Christine?
Okay, so we've recognized Bill Ricker. We'll come back to Bill Ricker. I've already clicked that.
Oh, he's unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
There you go.
You are, Bill.
Thank you. The technology for me is difficult as well. I first want to thank Chris Wagner for her excellent report. I'm as concerned as most within the school system for the lack of a special ed replacement, as our special needs students have had a severe reduction in service due to distance learning, and many of those students have difficulty with that process. Thank you for those comments, Chris. There's two budget items that concern me greatly: the reduction of the land acquisition fund to $1,000 and the complete removal of the weed mitigation efforts on our three major lakes to zero. As a conservation commission, we're appointed to responsibly conserve and supervise the natural resources in the town, including water resources. I question our value to you if, as a commission, our responsibilities are diminished and our thoughtfully researched recommendations are set aside. We would not have our valued 105-acre Hewitt Farm an anchor to our open space holdings if it were not for the past funding of the land acquisition fund. We will not have the monies to invest in another valued property available to us with $1,000 added yearly due to other pressing needs of the day. In 100 years, $1,000 would not be able to buy 1 acre of land. Were this the thinking of our past national administration, we wouldn't have Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Everglades, all preserved for us today, nor Patchogue Forest, established and expanded during the financially strapped Depression. It plays a significant part in establishing North Stonington as a desirable, nature-friendly community. On a separate line item, the three major lakes have highly invasive weeds that threaten to choke these waters for town residents in the future. It's not simply the lake residents who use these gems for recreation, but scores of townspeople and dozens of boats, as attested by our recent Memorial Day weekend use. The lake residents have taken the responsibility over the past decade to treat these invasive weeds with their own donations. $1,000 per acre for chemical treatment, yet they do pay a premium. The town has recently understood their plight. Due to those other pressing needs, however, it has been cut to zero this year. The past $15,000 given to the three lakes over the past 2 years has been a supreme support in our continuing to treat all of our lakes. You know, folks, there's always other pressing needs. There will be pressing needs next year. There will be pressing needs in the year after. The lack of foresight, however, to keep our environment healthy for present and future generations does not support our farm-friendly, environment-friendly, responsible, conservation-minded community. We've supported our need for fire and ambulance service. We've supported the rebuilding of our physical plant for our schools of distinction to be housed. Please retain your prior support for the health of our physical environment, which we all live, and restore both the land acquisition fund to a meaningful number and support to our three lakes. Thank you, folks.
Thank you for your input, Bill. You know, on both counts, they were well debated. There is another pathway towards maybe some realization there by an appropriation brought to Board of Selectmen, then on to Board of Finance. Next, Christine.
Okay.
Bruce, you're being recognized. If you can, are you unmuted?
I'm hitting my unmute button. Do you hear me now?
Yes,
we can.
all right, gotcha.
Bruce
Welcome.
Wilkinson, 389 Ewassop Lake. I'm just going to echo Bill's comments. We have benefited from this weed abatement program on the lake. We do pay a bit of a premium in terms of tax base because we are on the lake. The short-sighted nature of the economic attraction of the lakes of this town, the 3 lakes. If we do not abate, we will end up with a very serious problem, which will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in 5 to 10 years' time if the weeds are choking out a lake. So I think the loss of that kind of economic asset to the town would merit I think a very minor contribution that is being proposed in the budget. And the reason it's cut, I think, is a bit short-sighted. I'll side with Bill on preserving the natural resources of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'm actually with
Noted.
another gentleman here on the lake. Dave, could he just, since make a quick comment?
Sure.
Hi.
This is somebody, okay, yes, go
I
ahead.
live on the lake. I live on like David Prolip. I lived on 421 Murphy Road. I just want to say that you should definitely, I agree with Bruce and Bill totally, that we should try and just continue on doing what we can here and not prolonging it. That's it. Thank you.
And David, your last name again was, I didn't quite catch it.
Prolip, Prilipp.
Thank you.
Sarah Nelson, you're recognized.
Hi, thank you. This is Sarah Nelson from Denison Hill Road in North Stonington. First, I'd just like to say thank you for all of the work you've done coordinating these Zoom sessions. Being a family of 2 parents that work full time, getting to town meetings is very difficult before this happened. So I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to participate. And I hope that we're able to keep doing this going forward because it's definitely increased the transparency to the rest of the town and people being able to participate and see these types of discussions. So thank you. I just want to say another big thank you to both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed. I think you guys put forth fantastic budgets. Specifically, I have some concerns in the Board of Education just because of the unprecedented time that we're moving into with COVID. And we don't really know what the plan will be to keep our children safe during the fall start. So I think you guys did a remarkable job with a very limited number of resources. We did move here for the schools, and I know many parents who also moved here for the schools and for their children. And so it's a benefit to the town that we continue to keep our schools as high, as highly regarded as they are in the state. So I hope that some consideration will be given to the Board of Ed if they need to do any special appropriation to address COVID-19 and ensure that our children are well stocked with the technology they need. And this isn't just computers. Technology includes the software that they now have to use to be able to provide the services to the town. That comes at a very high cost. And so I think our teachers have done an incredible job, not only designing online curriculum, but literally being technical support for the entire town that's attending these classes and their parents. So thank you, huge thank you out to the teachers who have done that. And huge thank you to the Board of Education. And I only hope that the town recognizes what an incredible job you've done and the value you bring to this town. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. Well noted.
Thank you.
Okay, Bernard Bardick, you are recognized. You just have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
We
can.
got you. Yeah,
Okay. Good evening. I'm Bing Bernard Bardick, 379 Wyassup Road, First of all, I would like to thank everyone involved in the budget process. That is very long, many long hours and very hard and difficult work with difficult decisions to go along with it. In the beginning, it was mentioned the budget was based on conservation and planning. I'm going to speak very briefly to conservation. I'm basically echoing what Bill, Bruce, and David have already said. Some of the things that have kept me sane, or my wife would question that, but almost sane during this crisis was the ability to hike on the magnificent trails in North Stonington and in the open space, and also to walk around some of the lakes. We have 3 gems, Wyasset, Billings, and Blue Lake. If weed control is not continued, then these lakes will become difficult, if not impossible to use. It doesn't take long for weeds to take over. As far as the hiking is concerned, if we don't, and open space, $1,000 is a pittance. It's like Bill said, it take 100 years to buy maybe an acre, and with inflation, not even that. I ask that these funds be reallocated. Books have been written on the outdoors as far as helping create physical and mental well-being. And it's one gem. North Stonington has many gems, among others, the farms, but the trails, the open space, and the lakes really make North Stonington what it is, along with the other gems. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your input. So noted. And, you know, I would say to anyone who has called in to this point or will, that all of this input is listened to and actually could lead to amendments to the budget that we've talked about to this point. So thank you.
Okay, Brad, you're recognized.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We
Gotcha,
can.
Brad.
Okay. I just want to comment on the weed control. Well, first of all, Brad Ormsby, I live on Armstrong Pentway. I want to comment on the weed control. Since you've helped us out with the weeds for the last couple of years, the weeds in the lake are down considerably with the company coming in and putting in their chemicals. And if we stop now, we've lost all the money that we've put into it, you know, that the taxpayers have helped us out with. It would be very foolish to stop now, because we'd be going right back to square one again. The people around the lake have contributed some money, but we can't do it on our own. We need the help from the town. And it's not just for the town, for the lake residents. A lot of people in town use this lake. In fact, they outnumber us residents on the lake by a good percentage. So I respectfully submit that you could reconsider and give us back the money so that we can continue this weed control, so the lake doesn't go back to where it was before. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad, for your input. If I could get your last name, Brad, we've got a lot of Brads in town.
Oh, you do? Well, I'm Brad Ormsby. Armstrong Pentway.
Great. Thank you very much, Brad. So
Okay.
noted.
Okay, Julia Willett.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you,
Hi.
Julia.
Thank you
Julia.
so much for this opportunity to be heard and for all of the hard work that you all do on a daily basis. I am no stranger to committees. I've been a public school teacher for 23 years, and I know how much time it takes to do this job and do it well. And I have nothing but thanks and admiration. I am a 3rd generation Wyosop Lake resident. The address is 108 Wyosop Lake Road. My grandfather bought the land, you know, practically from the Indians, goes the story. And I just wanted to echo what Bill and Bruce and David and the guys have been saying about the weed abatement and the help from the town. When my father was young, they drained the lake every year, and that is what kept the weeds controlled. Now we don't do that anymore as a matter of course. And also our winters have become significantly warmer. So there's not even that sort of deep freeze that the lake used to get, which used to control especially the milfoil. And I have to say, I agree. I think Mr. Ormsby just said that for the past couple of years, we have noticed living on the lake. 2 years ago, I was literally laying on my dock and reaching in to take handful after handful of milfoil out from under the dock. And it wasn't even growing there. It had come there from other parts of the lake that were choked. And I have seen, many residents that, are not necessarily lake residents, not even North Stonington residents, who come in and enjoy the fishing, might go down to the new brewery in town and support the town in that way, go over to the place that used to be the Dewdrop Inn. So in other words, being able to have a great, wonderful day with your family out on Wyosop Lake, and I include Billings and Blue, but my personal, experiences with Wyosop, and having lived through several milfoil takeovers, I feel that the help that the town has given us has been immeasurable in being able to control the weeds. And I would also respectfully ask that this be reconsidered as something that is really contributory to the joy of North Stonington. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Julia, thank you. So noted. Joe Casada, you're being recognized.
I see that now. Thanks, Mike.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha now, yes.
Okay. I'm just reiterating again for I've been talking about for the past Board of Finance meeting, the Board of Select meeting. I think the Board of Finance and Board of Select meeting should put the per diem firemen back in the budget again this year because life safety is paramount. Without life safety, you do have nothing in this town. No school, no lakes, no nothing. So again, I would like to have the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance put the per diem staffing for the North Stonington Volunteer Fire Company back in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And thanks for the consistent messaging.
Okay, Mark Leonard, you're recognized.
Hello.
Hey, Mark, we got you.
Thank you for hearing me. I've been to a few meetings and I've watched a few online. And I know that all the boards and commissions have done a lot of work to sort of refine and lower where our budgets are at. I guess my greatest concern is listening to the Board of Ed and us being in the ability to import students from other areas into our town and create revenue for the town is being overlooked. It is something that we should be expanding on. Every one of these finance committee meetings that I've been going to talks about how we're not creating revenue or enough revenue. And when someone like the Board of Education comes to us and says, we have a guaranteed revenue stream, how are we not investing in that? One, and then two, with all the revisions to the Board of Ed, budget, how many teachers now are on the chopping blocks, considering that the country itself has the highest unemployment in a long time? How much is our town going to contribute to that by cutting teachers? How many teachers are we losing?
Christine Wagner, would you want to field that question?
Right now, the budget that's been presented forward is with just one, with not just, but a special ed teacher is not in that budget. The 2.5 allows us to keep our current staffing. However, going into the fall, there's some real concerns there of how that's going to look and how that's going to work. And this works for this year. So I guess just to, tag on to what Mr. Leonard is saying, we'll make it through this year. There's no guarantees on the following year if our budget cycles continue this way.
Could you also,
and I don't want to threaten, that's not a threat. I don't mean to make that sound threatening or anything.
Could you also just speak to how this would declassify us, or if we are no longer able to import students from other towns and create revenue?
Right. So if we can't if we have to start cutting programming, and that was our concern with cutting teachers and obviously, and cutting middle school sports too, because that's a feeder program into our high school sports, then we would have to go back to those towns and share those cuts. And, you know, they would have to make decisions further from there. They would no longer be the same programming that they were shown to move forward.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. I think just to add a quick note there that the district Board of Ed has done a great job and had great outcomes. And certainly from the Board of Finance side, we've made the investment in our schools, and we want to try to optimize those investments, but still do it within the resources we have right now. But we still always look to the future, always.
Okay, Madeline Jeffrey, you're recognized. You just need to unmute. Madeline.
You're
Madeline,
unmuted.
if you
You're
can hear
unmuted.
us, we see you up and need to have you unmute.
There you go. You're unmuted now, Madeline.
We may have to go to the next one. Maybe she'll come back in, Christine.
Okay. There's actually no one else with their hand raised right now. So again, I just want to remind you, if you're on your phone, you have to hit *9 to virtually raise your hand. Okay, so Art, you are recognized to speak. Just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that all right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, my name's Arthur Armstrong. I live on Armstrong Pentway on Wyasip Lake, and I'm calling about the weed abatement program that we've had in effect for the last couple of years. It's done wonders for the lake as far as doing away with some of the weeds. We've put in close to $20,000 from our association up here. 10 of that has been from the town helping us, and 10 has been out of our pockets. And the water rights and everything else for the for 2 of the 3 lakes in town are controlled by the state, and we're not getting any help at all from the state. You know, and I know they've got their problems and everything else, like every other town, but they're not doing anything to help us at all. And they've also just tacked on another fee when we go to treat these lakes. We have to have a pre and a post survey done by a third-party representative. And right now, the cost for that could be close to $4,000 just for that survey before we even start to treat the lake. So that's something I'm going to take up with our state representative and our state senator, you know, coming up. But and I don't know why it's that way, other than the fact that they're probably low on personnel and they can't do their job, because it should be their job to do it. But we need your help. Just to echo some of the other comments that were made, as far as the usage of this lake, I would guesstimate probably 75% of the people that come to this lake are not residents of this lake; they're residents of the town. And it's this. We have a recreational asset here. Not this lake, but all 3 lakes in town. And if we let them deteriorate, they're not going to be that way. And our property values are going to collapse, they'll fall, and then you're going to lose revenue to the town just on top of that also. So please reconsider and help us out, because it's not just our problem. This problem is a town-wide problem, because these lakes are used by everybody. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So noted, and you're joining 7 others that have made a request for reconsideration.
Okay, Nick Mullane, you are recognized. You just need to unmute.
Nick, we can see you, but can't hear you.
That better?
I think we got you. Yes, please. Good evening, Nick. Nice to hear from you.
The ECS for the school is lower this year than or lower in the coming year. Is that because of population or because of the state amount per student?
I didn't hear the first part of your question unless Christine Wagner got it. Christine, did you hear his question?
Regarding ECS, the state,
Okay.
I can't answer why it is exactly. It doesn't have to do with the population. It's just what the state is doing with educational cost sharing monies at this point. I guess I haven't researched it's not us specifically. I think it's statewide. Mike, you might know better to answer that.
It looks like the state of Connecticut doesn't support education. We're
It's
gonna talk to a representative and senator about that.
right. It's a formula. My business manager is telling us it's a formula they use, and within that formula, that's what the number comes out to be.
Well, it's always to their benefit, but all I've seen over the years is continued to get cut, and that's not what I should expect from the state of Connecticut. Next question. What's the status of the school budget and the rip out or the tear down of the middle school?
Relative to the school modernization project. In the original resolution, we would hope that it would include the demolition of the old middle school. But as that moved along, the resolution included that the project would have the discretion of the committee. Truth be told, as we moved from middle high school, which was a new construction, to the renovation of the elementary school, as we knew, there were biohazard materials that had been used and had to be cleared from that facility. Now, as we peeled away the onion, there was just more and more and more that led to a much higher number than had been anticipated, even though we had budgeted, we thought, to a level that would be satisfactory. But there was just more there that had to be done. So to make that elementary school renovated as new and free of biohazard materials, that's where the money had to go, which sacrificed the demolition of the old middle school, which had already been put aside as an alternate to the total project. Nick.
It seems like if we pass on any grant money, the 46%, that if we're ever going to do anything with that building, we're going to bear the full cost. It seems more frugal that we tear the thing down like we told them in the original when we sold the project, because the building in its present state, I'm sure, has many environmental problems, such as the windows and PCBs like the elementary school did. So if we just sit on the building, we're going to have to end up with the entire cost instead of getting 46%.
Yeah, understood. But the monies that potentially could have been allocated to the demolition of the old middle school had to be invested in the new.
I understand that, but couldn't an additional request of the state, because we overran on all the environmental costs and other unexpected things on the high school?
I think there's still some conversations going on relative to that, Nick. But as you know, we can't violate the resolution and spend more than what had been approved by the town.
No, but we could go back and ask the state for that 46% rather than us paying 100% later on, which is going to be a higher number.
Yeah, I know that the committee, as well as our architect, Quisenberry, we have ongoing conversations going on with the state. And, you know, would not be, it's not to any outcome at this point. So it's not fair for me to, you know, suggest what will happen. But I can tell you that the conversations are being pushed.
Dan, last year I asked you for a detailed debt schedule so that we could get a picture of all the debt we have, both in the equipment, the schools and everything else. And I see we only have a brief summary. You know, seeing we've got a lot of new debt, wouldn't it be nice to have everybody see one big picture of everything that we have in the debt total?
Sure, that, you know, we can do that, Nick. You know, we see the debt schedule as a supplemental to the budget, but, you know, as you noted, you know, our actual debt schedule for the next fiscal year has been defined. So we can do that.
I'd like to see something from the start of the emergency service building and the school, and what we paid first payment, second payment, and up to where we're at now, and then all the other things that we have financed.
Yeah, Mike is showing, you know, an example of the budget.
I got it.
Yeah, okay, good. All right.
Nick, we probably should move on to another person. If you want to comment again at the end.
I was just going to say, we can have another conversation. Give me a call, Nick, for sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else coming up, Christine?
We have a couple people, but there's a Zoom version pop-up that's coming up. So I'm going to temporarily promote Lee to panelist so that they can comment.
Okay. Lee, you're coming up.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I apologize for, I guess I used a different version that didn't work. My name is Lee Winokur. I'm from 24 Island Road in North Stonington. I won't waste any time repeating the very good points in regards to the weed abatement. I just want to be another individual's voice that's heard on that. I think we should seriously reconsider the funds for that program.
Great, Lee. Thank you for your input, and you join a group of, I think, 8 or 9 that I've made comment with.
Okay, and Charles Steinhardt. Charlie, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Charles Steinhardt, 7 Ravenwood Road. It's regarding the per diem staffing. Most people are well aware that we've asked for this for the past 2 years, and it's never made it to the Board of Finance through the selectmen. Looking for support to see if this budget could actually be funded this year. We've tried and justified this request for over 2 years now. We've tried the quarterly newsletter, Facebook posters, videos. Again, with no avail. We're looking for daytime people, and the next step, since we're unable to obtain volunteers, we need to get per diem paid firemen. Again, life safety should be a priority in town, and I asked to have this line funded. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And just comment there, the chief had made a separate presentation to Board of Finance members talking about per diem firemen, in that the critical time is daytime, where he has a staffing of 6 volunteers, simply because other volunteers are with full-time jobs. So the thought there was staffing that would be at the firehouse continually in order to meet any response that comes up, and hopefully minimize or optimize the response time. as calls came in. So thank you, Chief.
Okay, WB, you are recognized.
Hi, I was wondering if I could get some information about line item B8, the town attorney fees. My name
Can
is,
you just state your name and address for us, please?
sure, it's Winona Burdine at 216 Casadic Hill Road.
Okay, go ahead, Winona.
Line B8, the town attorney fees, looks like that they've just jumped around the last 2 fiscal years, and I'm just curious what's driving that with an increase for next fiscal year.
Sure, and that's something, we've taken a look at and did talk about in our Board of Finance meetings. And I think I would move to our first selectman to bring a little more definition.
Yes, thank you for the question. So you're right, it has moved around. In fact, I think when my board first came in, we had made some reductions there and then ended up seeing increases based on the fact that we had more money to spend. Then we also did some merging of the land use with, whereas land use used to have separate lines for attorneys, we actually put them all into one line. So that's really what's driving that, is a combination of merging of attorneys' lines. And I don't know if Christine, admin finance officer, Christine, I don't know that I properly introduced, who's helping to facilitate this. If you have anything else to add to that, Christine.
No, I think that it's just a true representation of where we anticipate the bills to come in. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Winona. So noted.
Okay, Brian, you're recognized.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road, North Stonington. As a taxpayer, I believe the Board of Finance job is to present a budget to the taxpayers that can afford with the monies available. I keep hearing move the town forward, and I don't believe this is the year for that. The federal government gave money to help people. People are losing their jobs. It's struggling to make ends meet, and it's causing hardships right here in North Stonington. We have over $3 million, which is 15% of the budget, in a rainy day fund, which I think we could use some of that. With that in mind, I'd like to just go over a couple of things in the budget that I looked at. The first part is B108 and B110, the Council of Small Towns and the Council of Governments. Now, we're spending money for both of them. I don't know if they're both necessary. And I'd like to just go right through this because I only got 2 minutes. The tax assessor, I think that can be part-time position instead of a full-time. That could be reduced. It was just mentioned about the town attorney for $30,000. We spend a lot of money on attorneys in this town. And we also have the tribal recognition, $5,000. I think they've already been recognized, and I'm still not really cool on having that. If you go to Conservation Commission with an advisory board, B18, it doesn't show anything there, but if you go to B34.08, it shows $2,075. The B16, the Recreation Commission. I think we have a lot of recreation in this town, and we spend a lot of money on recreation in this town. I think that we looked at and reduced, being that the Conservation Commission and the Recreation Commission gave money to help build a pavilion out of their budgets. So they were evidently had a little excess they could do with. I think the old fire station, which it says B1605, $10,360. And then it says recreation center upgrades on C3.46, $15,000. That's $25,000 there. As I move on, The North Stonington Quarterly is up to $6,000 now. Started out a lot less than that before we even started. The state troopers, I'm not sure how many we get for $419,000, but I don't think we need a lot of troopers. They're state troopers, most of them, and if you call the state police, they'll come. That's who you'll get from town here. The Hewitt Farm, we give $5,000 to. But then if you look at C335, the 1750 house, $10,000. So that's $15,000 going toward the Hewitt Farm. When we bought it, we were told that it was going to be self-sufficient. Well, $15,000 is not self-sufficient. I love the library. We gave them $30,000 every year for $55,000. I think everybody's going through a hard time. Like I say, I think you could reduce that back to 30. Let's see now. That's the Conservation Commission I already hit on. And their donations for that pavilion, I believe, was $600 from the Conservation Commission, and it was from the Recreation Commission was $10,211. So that was a lot of extra money that they had, evidently. The other thing I'd like to say, I don't want to forget our Board of Education. I understand they went through negotiations recently, and I think that when they go through negotiations, there should be a period, which I understood Mr. Nero say, that there's a 30-day that you can look at and study it. I've never seen it. I'd love to look at it and see what the negotiations are bringing up, because I don't know how can you negotiate a contract when you don't know how much money the town has to be able to put toward contracts. And then the other point is, I keep hearing about kids coming to this school. I've been hearing that. And I don't understand why people would want to send their kids here when North Stonington didn't want to send their kids anywhere. Parents think the same as we do. So my recommendation is to have 0% for the selectmen's budget and 0% for the Board of Education budget, simply because of this hard time that a lot of people are having. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Looks as if Dan may have fell off the call for a second, but we can continue with comments. We are being broadcast to YouTube, and so, oh, hang on. Go ahead, Christine.
Okay. Joe G., you're recognized. You just need to unmute yourself.
Do you hear me, Christine?
Yes, go ahead, Joe Gross.
Joe G., 3 Hickory Lane, Cedar Ridge. I noticed earlier, I think you can see me. You can see I have a budget with me. There's a lot of comments here. It's a hell of a lot more than 2 minutes. With it, you can also see I pick up the delinquent tax list for 2017 and 2018. It's like a ream of paper. I read them to you. It's quick things. The lake people on the lakes up there, we in town support you, and not just all the people who live around the lake. So I'm looking forward for your support now too. One thing in here I can't see here, and if you look at the education budget, the items that we're cutting in there, the supplies and that, and I feel for Wheeler Library. I think it is a great area we have. That increase from the Wheeler Library should be going to the Board of Ed, and they should be picking up the instruction supplies, technical stuff, and that's where that money belongs. We don't need to increase the library. We need to do them. Also, we hear the times, I like to mention to Brian that yes, the times are tough and hard for all of us. However, casino just opened up the road here. I'd like you to check and see how hard it is for them people to be filling that in. I think the comments that we get is going from year to year. We do a 12-month budget to a 12-month budget. As I see, our revenue was down this year. This year here, just with our delinquent taxes here with 2017 and 18, I took the first 31 taxpayers delinquent, and the grand total was 531,000. When you put the interest, another 63 something on there, that's $1.8 million in delinquent taxes, 2017, 2018. We're going to do something about it, and I'm going to ask where that money lies between our steps that we do to collecting them. And I think the boards there, you got great people on the Board of Finance, and men are good there. And as I want to make sure before I get cut on this 2-minute thing I'm allocated, I want to see our administrator move from that position. And I want to see Christine Diaz, as we hired for a professional financial administrator, over with that Board of Ed. And then we start doing a year to year, get away from the year to year budgeting, and we do budget for the future and what we need this year. If you take next year's budget, which I don't know whether they've ever done, look at the stuff that we've moved over there and where that budget stands today, and they haven't even started to look at it. You got 5-year plans that come in from the Board of Ed and everybody else. And everything we do there is you keep moving it out, moving it out, moving it out. It's time we get the professional, skilled, knowledge person in there. And I know Christine will do the damn job. And we'll get into our own policies, procedures, and forget the state of Vermont. I also want to mention that this here, you keep hearing about the chief and that. The fire chief does comment on the paid people. That paid stuff that he's commenting on was not his commitment. That's a commitment of unanimous vote of all members of the fire department. That's not a one-man vote. Unanimous vote of every member on that fire department. That's where that thing came from on that. And we need that stuff up there and that. If you're looking at the 6 men each day, it's down to 3. The sad thing to say is I'm one of the 6. And that's 81 years old, baby. So that's how tough it is here. So we do need some more help in here. And when will we know when the Board of Finance goes back and they redo the budget, whatever they hear tonight, when will the public get to know what the budget that they'll be voting on, what it will be? I don't hear.
All right, sorry that I was off there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, I hear you, Joe. Board of Finance will meet jointly with Board of Selectmen Wednesday evening, and we will discuss the input that we have heard tonight.
All right, was you with me when I showed these items I had?
Joe, we can't see the camera for anybody that's not a panelist, so we could only hear you, not see you.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I thought you saw someone else. That's why I did this. I'm sorry. What I did show here is I have the budget, but my whole front of that is covered with comments. It's more than 2 minutes. And my main key things were to take the library stuff back to that Board of Ed. I'm tired of seeing them kids get hurt all the time. The other thing is we have a reduced budget of revenue this year. That reduced budget of revenue, if you look at the uncollected taxes in 2017 and 18, is about as thick as a ream of paper. That's over $1 million right there with the first 31 people delinquent paying taxes. Facts, not just me, it's facts. And then 2019, 18 is a little bit thinner right now. And I think our tax collector's done a heck of a job. All I want to know is where does all this money sit through our procedures of collecting taxes? If I have, say, $1 million, how much is in the first collection agency? You know what I mean? You go to the attorneys and then you continue on there. So we should have a process where this delinquent taxes are sitting. And that's going to be my next question.
Well, relative to
Again,
that.
I think I did go to the Board of Finance meetings. And Dan, you got some good men on that board and you got a good lady on that board. They need the professional finance thing. And I'm going to continue as long as I can. I want Christine over there to work with you and give you a hand and get this thing smoothed out a lot smoother than what it is. And I think you'll support her. Not that you're not doing your job, but you need that help.
All right, Joe,
serious.
thank you. I did hear you. I mean, relative to tax collections, we look at that every single month. And that past taxes, we do have a process which includes collections and actions by our town attorney. So, all right.
Okay, we have a phone caller that we are recognizing.
Mhm.
Sean Murphy, 23 Kingswood.
Okay, Sean, we got you.
I guess I have a three-part question concerning revenue. Like Dick Mullane, I'm concerned with the ECS number and was hoping somebody could explain or to us or relay to us what the state's explanation was for reducing our ECS by 60,000. The second part of that question has to do with Boom Bridge revenue. If you could tell me how is it that we expect to receive revenue for the Boom Bridge project? And the third part is deals with property rent revenue. A comment or concern on that is that for 2 years now, the town has not received any revenue for the rental of the farmhouse. Yet we're continuing in this year's budget to put more money into it, and yet it sits vacant. And it looks like, although it's been 2 years, it looks like there's no rent money included in next year's budget for the farmhouse as well. And what's the story with that? Why can't we get a rental or a renter in there? It should be at least an additional $30,000 a year that we're not realizing for rent.
All right. I think ECS was Christine Wagner. We talked briefly about that earlier. I don't know if Sean was on at that time.
I know the state reduced it.
I'll get back to you on that. It did reduce, and there's a formulation to it as to why. I don't have that information in front of me, but if it's okay with you, I will pull it up this week and get that information back to you.
I can tell you that's actually a number that's usually provided to the
number is
general
provided.
Government. Yes.
I don't have the formula. I don't have the reasons.
Provided to the town. Okay.
So if it's okay with you, I don't have the information right in front of me, but I'd be happy to find it and get the detail to you if that would be okay.
That would be fine. I just would hope that we would, the people and our town government has an understanding of why that happened to us and be able to explain that to us, because it's additional money that we have to contribute in our taxes to make up that difference.
Okay. I'll research it and I'll get the information to the Board of Finance so it's on record.
Thank you.
Yep.
I can tell you the last year, the legislature set a 2-year budget, and I had multiple conversations with our representatives trying to explain to them the concerns we had with the cuts in ECS that we knew would be coming this year. As you know, this has been an ongoing battle with the state with declining intergovernmental revenues year after year. But our representatives are fighting, and that's that. As far as the Boom Bridge, you had 2 other questions. As far as the Boom Bridge, I think what you're referring to is the obligation of some funds because the bids came in less than what we had budgeted for. So that's where you see revenue or Boom Bridge coming back to us. And finally, the Hewitt Farm, John Dean Gallup House, which has been vacant since, I want to say, December of 2018. So it's not been 2 years yet. It's been about a year and a half. We had a lot of issues with the interior of that house. Those renovations, as I said in my presentation, I'm not sure if you were on, have been completed on the interior. And we actually just today, we had put an RFP out there looking for interested parties that would be potential sources of revenue to occupy the property. And so we'll be looking at options for the property as well. And, and the Board of Finances and the Board of Selectmen's take on including revenues that we weren't sure of. We pretty much didn't do that. There were other sources of revenue we also would have liked to include, but with the uncertainty of whether or not or when we would get a tenant in there, we just didn't include it at all. So hopefully that'll be a windfall to us if we get the property on. Thanks for your comment.
Yeah, and relative to that property, Sean, I mean, it's been bathrooms, they reassessed the roof, they cleaned, they painted, looked at things, construction, in terms of its soundness and construction. So a lot has been done to attract a rental back. So, thank you.
Okay, Charles Steinhardt the fourth, you're recognized.
Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, I just want to go back to the per diem firefighters. I really think, as being one of, like, with myself and Joe Gross, 2 of the 6, 66 plus years old. I mean, the bottom line is, if we need guys or people days, this is not a problem that, it's a wonderful thing to study. The fire company has studied it for years. It's now the committee can move forward because they need to look at something future where we're headed. But right now, today is the day. The problem is now. It's not 6 months from now. It's not 2 years from now. So I really requested the Board of Finance relook at it and interject that per diem firefighter positions into the budget. Thank you.
So noted, Charlie. Thank you.
Okay, we have another phone caller.
Hi, this is Lisa.
Go ahead. Yep.
This is Lisa Mazzella, 247 Casadic Hill Road.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I wanted to thank all the boards and commissions for all their hard work with regards to the budget. I can only imagine how difficult some of the choices have been for the Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed, and the Board of Finance. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate you all putting yourselves out there. With that being said, first, I would like to echo the comments made by Bill Ricker and others with regards to the weed situations in our lakes. I really feel that the funding needs to be put back in. And I'm very concerned with the Board of Education budget not including the special ed teacher in it. I really think we need a little bit more than 2.5% increase on that. With these crazy times we're living in with COVID-19 and distance learning, some of these kids all the kids who depend on our special education department, as hard as it is for all the children with the distance learning, it's especially hard for those kids. I feel that the special ed department is more important now than ever. We don't know what education is going to look like in the fall. And I do realize that the Board of Finance doesn't tell the Board of Ed what to cut. But I have over the years paid enough attention to know that the money appropriated to the education budget is always well spent, carefully spent, and responsibly spent year after year. I know they have done all the cuts that they can. I know times are tough, for all of us, but this is not the year to cut so much from education. It's so important. That's all.
Hey, Christine, did you want to comment? But thank you, Lisa. So
Thank you.
noted.
I'm in agreement. I guess, this is where in hearing about year after year and this year being a tough year, I understand the last 5 years were banner years for economy and we still had to struggle for a budget. So I appreciate all your comments and we definitely will. We're trying their best. We don't know what the fall is going to bring and it is a concern.
Okay, I have another phone caller. Go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hi, it's Gary Anino, 91 Main Street. Just a process question. What happens next, Dan? So we go through tonight's meeting, Board of Finance meets again. Will this go to a town vote? I know there were some special rules authorized as a part of COVID, giving towns opportunity to pass without a vote. What's the current plan?
Okay, on the, which I mentioned, the next meeting this Wednesday evening, talking about the input that we've received tonight in this public hearing. We make some assessment whether or not the budget should be amended. From that point, we're under an executive order from the governor, which Mike Ergo, I'm sure, can give us just a little more definition.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, the governor's orders are in place, and you know, the directive from the governor is that the budget shall be passed by the Board of Finance. We're gonna bring in the you know, we're gonna make sure we have done our due diligence with regards to the legality of all of this, and you know, I guess the next step, as Dan said, is for the Board of Finance to weigh the comments of tonight. So, you know, we'll go from there. We'll make sure we have the correct legal guidance as to how we move things forward. And, certainly with a pandemic and unprecedented times like we're in right now, this is unlike anyone's ever been through or seen. So we're doing our best to navigate it and be thoughtful about the process. And I'm very happy to see that we've got what I think is a record turnout for a hearing, although people have dropped off. We had almost 100 people here tonight. So that was pretty good. Thank you.
That looks, sorry, this is going to sound a little flip, but that's a long version of not planning to have a vote at a time where the state is opening up and starting to relax the restrictions around COVID. You know, we have time to act. We've gone longer than this without a budget. I ask that the selectmen reconsider that thought.
Yeah, come the meeting Wednesday, we'll have some more dialogue about it. So we'll look forward to hearing from folks that night as well.
I understand your concern, Gary. Thanks for your input.
Okay, Carolyn Bennett, you're recognized.
Hi, Carolyn Bennett, 493 Pendleton Hill. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you. First, I want to commend the Board of Education and staff for doing what they could to ensure continuity in the services we provide to our students next year on an increasingly tight budget. The problem is next year will not be a year of continuity. Students have been attending school for the past month or two on mostly personal computers. Teachers witness disparity between access to education with students who have different levels of home technology, possibly shared among many siblings. Our district has done a great job filling these gaps with school-owned technology, but that need will only increase in the coming year as worn items come back to our district, and we may be sending new equipment home with students in the fall. We risk widening the gap of access to education for students based on personal ownership of technology, where families with means will have greater access. Moreover, many educational companies have generously offered online programs for free during this crisis, and most of those free trials expire this summer. Providing educational experiences at home require programs, websites, and subscriptions that will soon come with a price tag. Our teachers have done a fantastic job transitioning online and quickly learning how to use Google Classroom, which was a new platform for our faculty and students. But this is an entirely different skill set than typical classroom management. So if our teachers want to grow, they need access to out-of-town professional development. And of course, many students have specific learning needs that simply cannot be best served through a computer screen. Those students are currently receiving extensive support through phone calls and personal interventions during online learning. Many will need further remediation once we're back in the building. We need our special education staff to meet these needs. I think compromise is a commendable, essential quality in leaders. And I'm very grateful for our leadership and the difficult compromises they have made in order to move this budget forward. The Board of Education has made shrewd decisions with the numbers they have. I just want us all to fully understand that this funding level is a compromise, and it will compromise the best interests of our students who are facing an uncertain future. I want to encourage everyone who looks over these numbers to keep the sobering human reality behind the numbers in mind. Thank you.
So noted, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said.
We're going to take a few more people, but we're moving towards 8 p.m. And as we've had great participation, we're going to try to keep it going, but we would like to come to a conclusion around the 8 o'clock time frame. So thank you. Next, Christine.
Joe Holt, you're recognized.
Yes, hi everyone. Again, good job. I think you guys have come a long way. I feel we could still do a little bit more, especially, you know, a lot of people have been out of work, struggling to make ends meet. I still feel there's some cuts in there, like in the rec department and stuff. I don't see any itemization as far as in these budgets of why so much money is required into these different fields. And in these times, I think unless you could pass a zero budget with no increase, I don't feel it should be pushed through. I feel that, like the previous caller said, we are going to be opening up. Stonington Town Hall's opening up next week. I feel we could follow suit. And if we could go to drive-up windows and order, we could also come to a drive-up window and vote. There's no reason to push this through without the people's say. Thank you.
Hi, Joe. Quick comment to one thing that you said. All the back to submissions by commissions and boards, the Board of Finance does look at. So that information we think is well vetted. We all live it. We're all living in this pandemic and what it's done in terms of shutting down the domestic economy, the global economy, and yet still working within the context of that to try to move things forward. So believe me when I tell you, all of these things are taken into consideration. We do think about them and try to make decisions that we believe serve the town.
Okay, we have 2 people with their hand up now, so I think that would bring us right to the 8 o'clock hour. So these will be the last 2.
Great. Thank you, Christine.
Okay, so Art, you're recognized.
All right, you're being recognized. We can't hear you though.
He may have accidentally raised his
Okay.
hand. He did speak earlier. I don't know if that was an accidental hand
Okay.
raise.
Okay, so we will go with phone caller, Sean Murphy.
Yes, Sean Murphy, 23 Kingswood. I would like to speak up on behalf of the fire company's request for per diem firefighters during the day. Unlike a piece of equipment, and they probably know that I have wanted to make our equipment last longer in the past and not supported requests for equipment right away. I don't see having the manpower needed to send out a fire truck as something that can be pushed off another year. The firemen, rightfully so, take a lot of pride in their work, and I'm sure they don't want to come to the town and tell us that they need help. They'd rather do it themselves. But they know that the numbers are dwindling for the people that are available during the day to answer the call. 100% of the membership agreed with their decision. I don't, I respect the work of the committee, but the fire company They are our fire company. They are the ones that respond when we dial 911. They know if they cannot no longer support us during the daytime hours. They are the best ones. They are the only ones that we should rely on to make that decision. And I would request that you include the $100,000 in the budget for the per diem firemen and find a way to make $100,000 of reductions to the general government budget. And if you need help doing that, I'd be glad to give you some ideas, as you have heard from me before. But I support the fire company's request for per diem firefighters during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So noted.
Okay,
All right,
so
I'd like
we-
to wrap it up at this point. I'd like to thank everyone who's participated. Again, we had participation that was just shy of 100 people, and there's been very few town meetings that I've been at or public hearings, I guess, but same as this, that we exceeded 80. So I think we've had some pretty good representation, realizing that it's a new framework and people have got to use technology. And we appreciate all the input that came to us tonight. Any closing remarks from our first selectman or our chairwoman from Board of Ed?
I don't have any closing remarks, and I know we don't want to carry the meeting on, but I am concerned about not hearing from those that haven't spoke. I think if you've already spoke, I understand we have to cut a time limit on, but I do see some hands up of people that haven't had a chance to speak, and it is a hearing that everybody should have their voice heard. I don't want to extend the meeting much longer, but I'm seeing a couple of hands up that haven't spoke.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps those who haven't spoke could still speak, Dan, and then if there's others who've already spoken and they want to send email or drop off their comments, we can certainly share that information with you as the chair, and it could be deciphered to your members. It's up to you.
If there should be I know you have to drop off, Mike. I think we can handle it if you want to do that.
I can stay on for a few more and be late to the next meeting.
All right. For the next couple of respondents, I want to give consideration, as Christine has said, to the voice. We're just trying to do the best we can in the context of what we have. So Christine Diaz, do we have someone we want
Yep.
to
So phone caller, you are recognized.
Hello.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Hi, Cindy Landry, 331 Providence and London Turnpike. I just had a couple of questions about the budget document. I noticed that your estimates for revenue or expenditures for the current year are not reflected in the budget document. Do you have that information available?
I'm not sure. Clarification of the question.
I think everything's reflected in the budget document.
Well, I see the go ahead.
The year-to-date actuals aren't reflected in the budget document. That's not the document the town chooses to use. We do have our expenses reflected in our OpenGov portal, which is accessible through our website.
Okay. I also wanted to know, what's the current tax collection rate?
We're at a 29 mil.
No, your tax collection rate.
We estimate 98.5,
yeah,
98.5%.
98.5. Is that for 20 or 21?
It has been for the last 2 years, 98.5.
Are you not reducing that for the 21 budget in light of what's going on?
No, we are not.
I think you're one of the few towns that are not. What's the current fund balance percentage?
I'm missing the question, the percentage of what, please?
Fund balance, unreserved fund balance, unassigned.
Yeah, it's currently at 15% of expenditure budget.
And what do you estimate it to be at the end of 21?
I would expect it to probably be close to the same.
Okay, is 15% your policy?
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you. If I have other questions, I'll drop them by or email. Thank you
And
very
your
much.
first name again was what, please?
Cindy.
Cindy. Great. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael Noonan.
Hi, Michael Noonan, 32 Meadowood Drive. I would just like to thank the boards for presenting budgets that will help the town function for the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you so very much for presenting a reasonable budget that will help us move forward. I hope that the Board of Finance approves the budget as presented, which they have supported by sending this to the hearing tonight. The current executive order by the governor permits boards of finances to approve budgets without a referendum at this time, and I request that they do so as other neighboring towns have done in the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I think you understand the environment that we're working in, and that what the governor's order has been to the municipalities of the state.
I think there's one more phone call that we haven't heard from.
Hi,
Phone
my
call
name is
you're
Todd
recognized?
Howard. Todd Howard. Live at 29 Fowler Road. And what I've been looking at is the news keep talking about unemployment rates keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. Government isn't collecting money like we should because of the hard times that everyone's having. I don't think we should increase our budget. We should have a zero increase for both Board of Finance and for the Board of Ed. We should stay where we're at or look to reduce the amount of money we're spending. Farmers are getting hit hard, which is our main income. That's the main people that live in this city or this town is the farmers.
I appreciate that, and I certainly understand it. Was it Howard something? First name is, again?
First name is Todd, last
Todd.
name is Howard.
Okay, good. Todd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, those are the last of the first time speakers.
Thank you.
All right, that puts us a little past 8 o'clock. And I would actually like to conclude our public hearing at this point. Again, Board of Finance, which is a public meeting, will be meeting Wednesday. And you certainly have the opportunity to either call in or text into the town hall so that we pick up added input as we move forward. So again, I really thank everybody's participation tonight. Thank you, First Selectman Urgo. Thank you, Chairwoman Wagner. We appreciate it. And Christine Diaz, of course, as always, thank you. All right, and we will conclude this hearing at 8:04 is what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you.